All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Black Desert. So we are back with our March window shopping edition, and if you haven't seen any of the other videos, basically we talk about the central market trends and should you buy, sell, enhance, or profit, and just notable items in general. So I think that even if you aren't on the North American server, it's a good idea to generally compare prices and see like what it's worth and see how much it might be valued at on different servers. So anyway, with that said, there's a few things I wanted to talk about this month because a lot of stuff has been changing. The 8-year anniversary is going on, so they have like big drop rate events, which means a lot of accessory prices have gone down. Some things have gone up, and so overall I think this will be a good month, and we'll talk about the notable items on things that I think are important for most people. And so as usual, let's start off with the weapons. I'm gonna go over this really quickly because I've done this in the previous episodes. So as a new player, chances are you're probably going to be using a Zarka because it gives it to you from the like Jetina turn in from Tuvala into boss gear. So the question is it worth making it or going for pen? And doing the Jetina weapon quest these days is not really worth it for weapons and armors, or maybe the armors are, but not the weapons, because I have a video showing you how to actually make it, and it costs about 6.5 billion silver to do the Jetina weapon for the first time. And if you could buy any weapon for under 6.5 billion, it's worth buying it instead of self-crafting it. So yeah, anyway, Zarka is not a bad entry level starter, especially because of how cheap it is nowadays. And if you have a Tet, it's not worth making it pen yourself. I know someone has to, but generally, if you could buy one for like 2 billion versus, I don't know, a Tet for 1.5, it's worth just saving it and grinding that extra hour or two. But anyway, for the rest of us, black stars are going to be the general option. And so when you look at the 3 black stars, and let's say you get your free one that they introduced a few months ago, in my opinion, the order you should go for it, no matter if you're Succession or Awakening, is the main hand, simply because it gives you the extra accuracy. And even at Tet level, you don't get anything here, and the offhand is something you get later on because Kudum is also a valuable option. And especially the only difference between offhands is once you get it to pen, you trade off a little bit of accuracy for a little bit of extra monster damage. So either way, whether you're a PvPer or PvEer, I would always recommend going for the main hand just because of the accuracy, and we'll talk about that in a second. So with that said, it doesn't matter what weapon you look for, whatever class, because the price averages are generally the same. So in my opinion, the best ones to enhance black stars wise for profit is either going to be the Awakening and or offhand at the current time. Never really the main hand, because people are going to get it for free, and so it is what it is. We'll look at the prices anyway. So Tet black star, hard minimum right now. As of like the last week of February, it went up a lot, but it's going to crash again. So if you're planning on buying one now, I would say maybe hold off another week and see if you can get it for under like 10 bill or 10 bill, like 10 or less, and then you'll be good. The pens have been going up simply because everyone has been making more money. The reasoning why people are making more money is because they have item drop rates because of the 8-year event. People are grinding, selling whatever they're selling, and yeah, people just have more money to spend on upgrades these days, so that's cool. So keep this in mind, like 140 billion for the main hand at pen. All right, let's look at the Awakening weapons now. So if you are a new player, you probably have a Dandelion. This is fine. you just kind of upgrade to Black Star whenever you feel like it. The best advice I could give to most people in terms of gear progression is what gives you the most AP or DP for the least amount of silver. So, for example, a pen is 2.5 billion. Let's just say 2.5. What that's worth. That is 122 to 131. A pen is like 122 to 133, which is, in my opinion, Black Star's always better for PvE, but the difference is 14 billion, or I guess 13 billion versus 2 billion. So like, I think for a new player, like new, I guess post-season 260 AP-ish, generally I think around there you could probably start making between 500 to 800 mil an hour, assuming like you start entry level, and if not, just go to centaurs and then it's easy 500 minimum. So anyway, a dandy at pen, if you can get one, is definitely not a bad option because it's just not 13 billion. So anyway, just upgrade whenever that's the cheapest next upgrade for you, and you'll be good. So 10 Black Stars for your Awakening is, I'll be honest, chances are like most people will sell it for minimum price if you want it, because Black Stars have been out for a couple of years now to the point where they aren't as rare as they used to be. So very rarely will you be able to sell one at max price. Chances are if you're trying to buy one, you want to just put an order on minimum. It'll probably fill within like a few days, and if you're patient, that's how you save like 10 bill. So yeah, main hand was like 130, 140 billion. Awakening we saw was like 140 to 150. So no matter what, the Awakening will always be better to enhance than the main hand. All right, next we're gonna look at sub-weapons. Now this one is a little bit harder to talk about because this is where things branch off, whether you're a PvEer, PvPer, or a high-end PvPer, because at the high end, you kind of either go AP, like the Nuver, or you can go accuracy builds. So I guess by the time you're at very high end, you kind of already have a lot of gear, and then like the green accuracy ones are just kind of less relevant. But like, let's say you're looking at this, 2 billion for an end game player is absolutely nothing. So I actually have a pen. I don't know where it went. I don't remember what character I put it on, but I have a pen. All right, hold on. I accidentally closed that. So we're talking about sub weapons. All right, so if you are finishing seasons and you're probably wondering, what should I do? This is kind of a beginner trap, because if you don't know any better, you're going to look at this and be like, oh, a new player would think 44 AP, that's huge, versus 31 AP. So what you really look at is the text in yellow. So it's like an extra 62 AP against monsters. So for PvE, it's significantly better. It's kind of like having 90 AP versus the 40. So Nuver is better for PvPers, whereas Kudum is better for PvE. And so that's just the way it is. If you can get one, focus on whatever you're doing in this game. And if you're a like endgame player, your chances are you have both of them just for whatever you're doing. And the question I've gotten a lot is, when do I transition from like a Kudum to a Black Star? And the answer is, it really is one of the late game upgrades when you're trying to min-max your gear. Because at Pen Capris 20 versus a Pen Black Star, we talked about this earlier. You trade off a little bit of accuracy. If you have the Black Star, you get less accuracy by like 2 or something, not even huge, but you get more monster damage, so that's better. But if you have a Kudum, it's going to be cheaper, but you don't get the extra monster AP. So Will you really notice? Not really, but it's one of those things that you just keep in mind for the future. So let's look at this one. Tet Black Stars, kind of the same as the Awakening weapons, 13 billion. And the pens are worth like 150 to low 130s. So in my opinion, you can enhance the Awakening and or Offhand for profit if that's what you're going for. I would probably go for the Offhand more right now, simply because more people are just kind of going for it. When you got the 61 free one, most people went for either the two weapons, and Offhand is generally the third pick no matter what you do. Even as a new player, you're probably like, okay, so this is the worst one of the three. And so, yeah, in my opinion, it's not bad. It's just one of the later ones. All right, so yeah, I've also answered this a while ago. I actually have a separate video, I should say, of when is a good time to transition from Black Star to Goddard. And a very quick answer, I'll leave a link in the description to the entire video, and I go into detail of why it's important. So basically, in a very quick nutshell, when should you upgrade? Does it put you into a new AP bracket? And if so, then that's when you should upgrade. So what I mean by AP bracket is when you see a number right here. So like, for example, you see mine is like 325 plus 205, right? The number in the bracket is every time you go 4 AP up into a new one, that bracket changes into a different number. So let me just change this for a second. And so you see how I have a 203 and a 205? In certain brackets, the number of like the plus 203 or something will be bigger. So anyway, if it gives you more overall stats, then it's worth upgrading. Generally, most people stay at try. Going for Tet it's not bad. It's kind of annoying to do, but like chances are going from base to try is like one new bracket. Assuming you're going for like the main hand and Awakening, and Tet will either put you into the second bracket, and then Pen, obviously. Pen Goddard and Pen Black Star, same thing. Do you like red or do you like purple at the end of the day? So, yeah, one of those end game things to think about later. Let's talk about armors real quick. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this very quickly, and it's basically the same for all 4 of the Fallen God pieces. So, when you are either enhancing this yourself or buying it, what I would do is, if I was enhancing it, what fail stacks do I start at? So from base to pry, you can start at like 80 to 100. They give out like 100 stacks like candy these days. So if you have 100 plus Valkit, so it's like 110 or something, 115, that's fine. And then from pry to duo, I would probably recommend starting at like a 130-ish and then going up to like a 160 from pry to duo. So duo is the equivalent of a Capris 20 boss gear. So like, let's say Griffin or Gaiath at max is kind of the equivalent of a duo. So from duo to try, if you were to enhance it, I would start at like a 160, go up to like a 210-ish fail stack. And then from try to Tet, you kind of just use the highest fail stack you have, simply because when we looked at Black Stars before, you know how they were like 140, 130 billion silver? A Tet Fallen God is like 230. So that's very expensive. It's very time consuming to get 200 bill. Even as a veteran player, you have to grind a lot or, just do a lot. So generally, I would recommend just using the highest fail stack you have. I personally, for all mine, going from Tet, I use like a stack between 245 to 270. And the hardest one for me was the Ator shoes at like a mid 270, I think. And then the other ones, 245 to 250. And I was kind of lucky. So either way, 240 and up, and you'll be fine. Otherwise, if you are buying it, what I would do is I would try to buy it at like duo or try, and then try to self-enhance it yourself. simply because the price gap from Tri to Tet is so huge that I legitimately think most people can get Tet cheaper than spending 220 bill. Like, in my case, 3 out of the 4 of them, I made it cheaper than the market price. The fourth one, I kind of just broke even and maybe went a little bit under, but I mean, for the most part, I think for average, most people can make it cheaper. All right, so how do you make Libresca? You get the Griffin or Gaiath from your seasonal if you have a pen, and then, or you've done the Magnus quest, and you basically get it to pen and then Capris it to 10, and then you get a flame, you grind a flame. I'll tell you where to get it. So the helmet, you grind Jade Starlight Forest in the Land of, not in the Land of the Morning Light, Mountain of Eternal Winter, and then you just grind it. So if you are at this stage of the game as a beginner and you're wondering, do I get Gaiath or Griffin? It's not really that relevant unless you're doing like PvP. So like the difference is 100 HP pool versus 5% resistances. If you're doing PvP, I value the resistances more than HP simply because in this game, if you get CC'd first, chances are you're going to get comboed. And so that 5 extra % resistances will help you more than 100 HP pool. But would you really notice it on the regular? Probably not. So get whichever one is cheaper. But Griffin, in my opinion, has a slight advantage. Not that much, though. So let's see. 16 billion versus 13 billion. So if your goal is to just buy Capris and get your Libresca as fast as possible, the Gaiath one is the way to go. And I should probably apply for that, actually. We're going into armors, which is a little bit different. The fail stacks are the same for all the armors for Fallen God, in my opinion. But in this case, back in the day, Dimtree was significantly better than Red Nose because having 200 extra HP pool was a lot better than some recovery. But it costs more to Capris a Dimtree at Capris 10 than a Red Nose. So what I would recommend to most people these days is just go Red Nose and Capris it, because let me just check. I think you can actually just buy a bunch of Capris for a decent price. So either way, I think that's good. If you can just buy it, cool. Aside from that, all of these are kind of irrelevant. I wish they would just take out half of these things from the game. Like, it just clutters everyone's inventory. No one really uses it to use. You use it to fail stack. So I feel like people could just Pearl Abyss could just get rid of all these from the game and start giving us other things. All right, so gloves. Oh yeah, I guess I forgot to talk about how do you get it. You know, Capris 10, you grind churros in, I think it's Odraxia. That's where it is. And then you get the flame. You can get it easy. So gloves are where things branch off. So you see there's blue and then there's green. Blue means you're the DR route, and green is evasion. So basically, this is kind of a little beginner trap as well that I'll talk about. Begs will go into the blue route. Libers will go into green. You can swap it if you chose one and you think it's like, oh, okay, so my character will go evasion and again. You can swap it. It's like very cheap. It's nothing to worry about. So there's no like right or wrong. You're stuck with it. So here's what I think would trick a lot of people. So Begs is for basically accuracy and the DR route. Here's where it tricks people. So Begs is 60 DP. Just keep in mind it has 50 accuracy. That's important. But you see, people just look at the DP number because this is where it is. So big number is bigger. That means it's better. Not really. That's what new players would think. So either way, let's look at this. 13.5 billion silver. 60 DP, 50 accuracy. Libers are, I guess, like, if you buy it at minimum, it's a little bit different, but I'm surprised it went up over last time. But people would see this and be like, oh, 62 DP, but only 25 accuracy. So most people would think, okay, so this one gives 2 more DP than the gloves, right? But it turns out these go evasion, and if your class isn't evasion, it's just not going to really help you at all. And at certain spots, DR is just significantly better. So one way to check if your class is evasion or not is you basically look at your passives, right? And down here, no matter what class you are, do your passives give evasion? If not, then you go to DR route. So for me, at Dark Knight, we just get more like offensive stats and accuracy. So I would go to Beg's route. But like if you're a ninja, Kuno, striker, all that stuff, well, striker can go either way, but generally there are evasions and DR. If you don't know, feel free to ask. I'm happy to point you in the right direction. I know it's confusing, but it is what it is. All right, so yeah, we talked about that. Just make sure to pick the right one for your class. But even if you didn't and you chose like the wrong one and you realize later, you can convert like a green one to a blue one or other way around. It's not a big deal. So yeah, if you have to ask, chances are you're Begs. So anyway, Black Star armors are kind of a beginner bait item. So the reason why Black Star armors were a thing, so a few years ago, basically Capra stones were permanently sold out on the market because there was only like one. I guess this is one back in the day before all the fallen gods were a thing. Everyone is rushing to get Capra stones and just get it all into their armors and stuff, right? And Capra stones are sold out. And another way to get fallen god is basically converting a pen gloves into like the fallen god, except you didn't need Capra stones, whereas the 2 boss gears do. So it was in an alternative route. It was never really worth it, even back in the day, simply because getting a pen Black Star was kind of as hard as getting a pen Black Star weapon these days. So yeah, nowadays Black Star armors are a bait. They were a bait back in the day as well. I remember this because I was playing this game back at the start, and every time like new gear comes out, that's when I was going for it. And so nowadays, if you're starting out confused, you could just straight up skip all the RNG steps and just buy the like already done ones if you wanted to. All right, so I'll admit the shoes are the newest ones that came out with the Ulakita area. I think this is the one you should go for last after you have the other 3 Fallen God armor pieces, simply because these are going to be the most expensive and it's like the hardest to grind, in my opinion. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to have gear, or it's like, for example, you see these shoes, they're like 50 to 60 billion, whereas the gloves are literally half the price. So I would go for the upgrades for these first over the shoes. So yeah, these are the newest ones currently as of March, and it's something you just go for last. So Uragon's is the DR route, Muskin's is the evasion route. Basically, Uragon's is the equivalent of Beg's, and Muskin is the equivalent of the Lieber that we talked about in the glove version. Blue is DR, green evasion. Black Star armors are still bait, no matter what it is. Here's where things will trick people as well. Pen Uragon, 79 DP, 15 billion silver. Muskins, 12 billion, 77. You see how that number is a little bit different? And this one is like, new players will see like, okay, so this one gives more DP and it's 3 billion silver cheaper. That's the bait, because what you really look at is this numbers in the small text where it's like increased all evasion. And yeah, it's, if you're evasion, this is good. So you want to look at the basically the stats in the small text right under the DP. But either way, once again, if you're confused on what to get, just ask and I'll point you in the right direction. All right, let's speed run accessories real quick. I'll talk about this very quickly. So, you know how Jetina has the basically 3 guaranteed accessories that you can get nowadays? Crescent ring, I think, is the good option for most people. Not that it matters because you can swap between them. So here's how you do it. So I haven't done my second one yet, just because like when this came out like a month ago, I just didn't need it. So basically, you just get all the materials, right-click it into here, and then you get your boom, pen is done. I think the hardest thing for new players right now will be getting the Blackstone weapons, simply because there's a lot of new players in this game, and getting Blackstones has been permanently sold out. So let me actually take a quick look at that. Yeah, there's 1 million orders. I know this looks like a lot, and it's like, oh my god, 1 million orders, I'll never get mine. It's not that bad, because there's a lot that get listed on the regular. So, like, yeah, there's 1 million orders, but you'll probably get yours within, like, 24 hours. You just have to watch it more regularly. But ultimately, it's not that bad. You'll get it. All right, so back to accessories. Where were we? Rings. Ominous are the accuracy accessories, so for PvPers, essentially. Be very careful about accuracy accessories, because if you look at the trends, most people, I think, are going for Debarekas, myself included, which are the AP route. And I think as of right now, ominous rings are technically the better trade-offs for AP to accuracy value. But that will change when Tungrad rings come out. Who knows when. So when you're buying any sort of accuracy accessory, just be very careful about that. And just know you might lose a lot of silver selling it back. Or if you plan on keeping it, it's no big deal then. Just, I guess if you're in the market to buy, the longer you wait, the price will go down. But I guess it's how much patience do you have. Monos is life skill. These ocean haze rings are something they came out with recently. You get them at Paddocks Island, and basically they are straight evasion and, well, DP evasion. They're defensive rings. They have 0 offensive. I don't think 99% of people will use it. The only people that use it are evasion exclusive builds, and that's where it is. So for most people, you can safely ignore it. Tungrad and Eye of the Ruins. So this one I have actually been watching, and the price has gone down simply because I think, like, back in the last month when we talked about this was about like 120, 130 billion. That's actually a lot, and I don't think it's worth that much. So at the current price of, let's just say 100 billion to make this easy, your alternative, aside from if you have 2 crescents from the Jetina, I think that's fine. But if you're going above and beyond from that, Eye of the Ruins are 42 billion. Well, I guess just say like 40 billion. Here's the difference. You get 130 HP per ring, so it's like plus 260 for 2. And this will cost you 80 billion, right? So for 2 of them, you're done. 1 Tungrad ring is 100 billion. And what do you get? 1 AP or times 2. So basically you're asking yourself, does 2 AP put you up into a new bracket versus 260 HP? At the current prices, I would honestly choose 2 Eye of the Ruins, because those are just 2 things you can get done. And like for 80 billion, you can just get both of them versus 100 and you only get 1. So the reason why I have 2 Tungrads is because back in the day when I was buying them, the price for a pen was like 90, or I guess no, like 80 to 90 billion. And the Eye of the Ruin was definitely like 70 to 80. So I only had to think of like a 10 to 20 billion price difference. Whereas nowadays, this is like 60 billion. So for 60 billion, I truly think that the HP is worth more than 2 AP. And you can spend that 60 billion for each ring on literally anything else that will give you more stats. So that's how I see it. But if you got 2 crescent rings from Jetina, I think you're fine. But just keep that in mind. And when you plan on upgrading, just look at the prices of the pens and then go from there. All right, so Deberekas, these are the endgame items. By the time you're thinking about Deberekas, you probably have roughly like 290 to 300 plus AP, and you're doing fine. Lunar necklaces are accuracy, and man, this is probably the lowest I've ever seen a pen lunar. It's like the trade-off. I guess this is a bad comparison to my gear, just because Deberekas' AP is the best in slot, versus you're trading off a lot of accuracy for 9 AP. That's wild. I remember when these were like 170, 180 billion silver. This was probably about a year, maybe 2 years ago. And now they tank. So you know how I talked about accuracy accessories being very scary? This is why. Because it went down like 120 billion over 2 years. And I guess if you're in the market to buy one, now is probably the best time. But just keep in mind that the longer things go on, I think accuracy accessories will go down in price. So if you're planning on holding it for a profit, I don't know about that, truly. So it's one of those things where if you buy it, just be careful of where it's going. All right, Ogre, Tungrad, Leighton, they're all the same thing. It's just which one is the cheapest for you. Tungrad will give you an extra Black Spirit Rage, mostly for PvP, but even then, kind of irrelevant. So if you're going for it at pen, just get whichever one is the cheapest. Right now, 50 billion. Dude, that's kind of wild, because I bought my pen Ogre probably about 4 years ago. I probably have a screenshot. You can find it on my channel somewhere where I bought the Ogre. I bought it for like 70 billion 4 years ago. And now they're going down because everyone these days is going for Debereka. And that actually kind of scares me, because there are some people that are legitimately going for Debereka, but they have like Tet armors and Tet jewelry or accessories. So I will say Deberekas are good, but they are not the things you go for early on. These are like the things you go for when everything else is done, in my opinion. So if you've ever watched my Debereka accessory enhancing videos, they're very expensive to enhance. They cost a lot of crons, and like they're generally obtained from high-end grind spots. So yeah, it's one of those things where they're good, and just keep in mind that they're very hard to enhance and you need big stacks. So yeah, that's about it. Everything else is just kind of like irrelevant unless you're doing something very specific in particular. Everyone else should just go for standards. Okay, so let's actually talk about belts first, because it's easier than earrings. Earrings will always be last. Debereka belt, once again, very hard to go for. I'm going for pen eventually, and you guys will see those videos in the near future. Tabex belt is actually one of those things where I think that it could be potentially good, but at its current state, it's not. So where do I see this used? Sometimes I see people using this in the boss blitz or like the Black Shrine Land of the Morning Light bosses. And basically, here's what happens. Here's how it works. Let's say you look at my Debereka belt. I have 21 AP, right? At pen for here, it's 17. But it allows me to get, I guess based on the level, you can see the little stat buff at the bottom. But let's talk about like 10 pen at this point, right? So you get basically when you equip it, you get an extra skill that you can just push. And it gives you 30 AP, 50 DP, and some accuracy for 1 minute. Now, this allows you to have a huge 1 minute burst window, which is very good. I see it used in high-end PvP, like sieges and node wars as well, which I think is fine. But when it's on cooldown, when you use the skill, you can't swap your belt off. So you can't just be like, okay, I want this skill, and then I'm swapping back to the main belt. You're stuck with this for 10 minutes. And yeah, that's the downside. So here's how I would fix this item. Lower the cooldown from 10 minutes to 3 minutes. And I guarantee you this will be like probably a best in slot item if it had a lower cooldown. But as of right now, generally the only people buying it are PvPers, and those PvPers are at a very high end scale. So I think most people, it's not really relevant for you, but if you're in like a high end PvP guild, it might be useful. And even then, like, not everyone needs it. Only like 1 or 2 people need it, and then you just stand by them and you get the buff from other people as well. So yeah, it's very niche, and right now I don't see most people using it. If you are the person who has it though, you're probably going to get into a lot of PvP stuff. So is it worth making? Not really. Is it nice to have as a side thing? Situational. All right, so let's talk about earrings now, because earrings are the last accessory slots you want to upgrade. So in my opinion, you would probably want to get the 2 crescent rings from Jetina first, followed by a necklace, whether that's ogre or whatever, and then a belt, which I guess the options would be Basilisk, Voltara. It doesn't really matter. Get whichever one's nicer or like not that much worse. I think Voltara is fine. I wouldn't really go Tungrad belt because I feel this is like a dead end upgrade for like 1 extra AP. So it's good to hold on to Voltara or Bassi up until you plan on going like Deboreka or, you know, Accuracy as Turo. Turo is one of those scary ones as well, because this is the Accuracy, and we talked about that a while ago as well. So keep that in mind. I don't know how the prices will go for it. All right, so once again, Deboreka's high-end stuff. I struggle to recommend it right now, because in the future, when Deboreka rings come out, the earrings will be the least valuable ones, because the way it scales right now, distos are a very good option. And Dawn earrings might actually be very good in the future, because when this comes out, people are going to be trading off their rings for Deboreka's, and then for PvPers, the Pen Dawn will be the accuracy route. So assuming there's like a 3-set effect, people will be going like necklace and then belt and then maybe 1 ring or 2. And then where do people get the accuracy from? It's going to be the earring slots. So either way, the question I get a lot is, what is the difference between Disto and Vaha's Dawns? They're the same thing. It's how you get them when you get it at Star's End or Elvia Calpheon. And Vaha's Dawns, you get them from the Ataraxian dungeons. So, when is the good time to upgrade or transition into Distos? The reasoning why is when you get Distos, you do lose DP. So I would say for most people, Tet and Pen are the ones you are going for. And so just keep in mind, if you have 2 of them, you're going to be -8 DP. Or if you have 2 Pens, you are -10 DP. So a good baseline that I would recommend to most people of when do you think it would be comfortable to switch is, can you grind Elvia Orcs? Which I would say you're probably in the 280-ish AP and 340 to 350 DP range. So whenever this number says like 280 plus and 340 to 350, you can start switching into Distos. And then if you can grind Elvia Oryx comfortably, I think that is a good baseline to look at. You could get it earlier, but I guess like just to be safe, because you are going down like at least 1.5 brackets, or maybe 2 brackets. I'm not sure how. I don't think it goes by 4. I think it goes by like 6. I'm not too sure on that. Either way, by having 2 of them, you're going down brackets of DP. And yeah, so that's where I think it stands. But aside from that, pretty standard. Most of these are irrelevant. I do think Baja's Dawn, or not Baja's, like the Dawns, the accuracy ones will be good in the future. So if you have a pen, I would probably hold on to it, because you could either get more money later or it'll be useful to you. So yeah, one of those things that we'll probably think about either enhancing or something, but right now I have a lot of other things to do, so it is what it is. All right, so what other things do I want to talk about? I have a separate video for artifacts and lightstones. I'll leave a link in the description to that, because that one's like a 20-minute video, or at least something close, where I go into detail of what I use and what you can use from beginner all the way to end game. So that's another video that we won't talk about again for a while. Alchemy Stones. I think that if you are a beginner, you should probably go for the Ator's Power Stone. You get that by doing the Ulakidia quest line. And that's basically like a Vel's, but with 1 AP and a little bit less stats. So it's free. It's an entry level Alch Stone. And then you want to go up into Vel. So Khan's Heart, I don't think it's worth it if you are buying it, simply because like you get 1 AP and it's like 6 billion. Unless that 6 billion and that 1 AP put you up into a new AP bracket, then I just don't think it's worth it. You could probably get some other upgrades for 6 billion. But I would just save up for a Vel, and then you're good to go from there. Very 1% endgame players will have the Splendid and up. I'm convinced that Perlibus forgot that Alchemy Stones exist, and man, enhancing one is probably one of the worst activities you can do in this game. And it's not fun. You go like mega negative enhancing these, and you can't even do it regularly either, because basically all sold out. So either way, for your average progression player, Ator's Power Stone going into Vel's Heart. And if your guild does the Vel bosses, or not Vel, Khan and Vel, chances are you'll get one of these. I wouldn't recommend buying the Khans, but you can craft one by doing the guild one. So if you just have to do it like 3 times or something. So yeah, if you have one, it's fine, but I wouldn't spend 6 billion on it. Life Skillers. I think that if you can get the Trent's tier, I personally use this one a lot more than my Khan's Heart, simply because I value the life XP a little bit more. But it also depends on what life skill I'm doing. Like, for example, if I'm turning in Imperial boxes, just by having this equipped, I'll have 25 life skill mastery. But if I'm like, I don't know, gathering, doesn't matter what, I'll actually have the Trent's tier on more than the Khan's Heart. Simply because the more life XP you get the levels, which give permanent mastery. So by leveling up more, it just gives you higher overall total in the long run. But I don't know, life skilling mastery brackets go up by 50, so if it doesn't put you into a new bracket, more XP is always nice. Everyone else, what you could do, I think the Trent's tier, there's probably a quest for it. I don't know where it is. I got mine from the seasonal reward a while ago, a couple years. But if that's not available, I think it is, but I don't know where to get it. Let's see. Back in the day, I had a sharp stone, but like, honestly, I think Khan Life Stone in particular is not a bad option. Plus, you can actually buy it. So, anyone else, if you're a beginner using these Destruction Spirit Stones, they're perfectly fine. Having this is better than not using anything at all. Plus, as a beginner, I believe they give you, where is it? Let me go look for it. They give you these seasonal stones for life skilling and grinding so often, to the point where those are just fine. You just can't recharge them. So once they're out, they're out. But with that said, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. Everything else here is just kind of whatever. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. thanks again for stopping by and checking out this video. If you are new, hit that subscribe button. I would love to see you come back. I make videos for beginners, returning players, and people who are just looking to get better at this game. I've been playing this game for, well, I guess almost 8 years now. You can watch my journey since day one and even in the beta. It's over 1,000 videos. I guarantee you 99% of people have not watched all of my video videos. But either way, hopefully if you have something to learn, you can find it on my videos. Or if you just want to see some of the guides, check out my Discord. There will be a link in the description as well. And I have a channel where basically I post all my guide videos. So if you're looking for something in particular, you don't even have to talk to me or anyone. There's a channel just for that. Just search up a video. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions. We have a gear check channel. Just ask me questions in general. So yeah, Discord is probably the best way to reach me. And I'm happy to point all of you in the right direction if you need it. So yeah, with that said, I'll see you guys tomorrow and have a fantastic day. Peace.